What? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Blue Sunday, which is coming to you live from Bangkok, Singapore, and Melbourne. I'm Joe. We've got our regular guests, Vince Lochisano. Good evening, Vince.
G'day,
How are
everyone.
you?
Nice to be with you on this delightful Sunday in Melbourne, the
Good.
day after
Debbie
Grand Final
Pelty.
day.
How
Good
are you,
evening,
Deb?
everybody.
Where are you? You're in Melbourne, aren't you, Deb?
Yes, I'm in Melbourne.
Okay, and from Singapore we have Jason. G'day, Jace. How are you, mate? Long time
Good,
no
guys.
see. My brother from the Asian channel. So there we go. So let's go. So, guys, tonight we've got a big show. We're going to talk about the grand final. Obviously, everyone's watched it. We're going to talk about Michael Voss's coach. And we're going to talk about our list. But before we start, just a couple of things. During the week, Big Jack Elliott, great president of the club. Some people love him, some people hate him, passed away. Leaves a lot of lasting memories. So good and bad, I guess. And also one of the Carlton greats, played in many of our finals, Peter Buzzusto. Peter Buzzusto starts his cancer treatment tomorrow. So, Peter, the Blue Bagger family, we all wish you all the best. Hope you'll beat it, mate. And we'll get you on the show as soon as we can get you on. So I'm going to start with the beauty first. Deb, tell us, how did you find the grand final yesterday?
Oh, it was everything that I wanted a grand final to be. I mean, for the past few years, we've seen one team dominate. And so you knew from the first quarter who was going to win. But this one, you actually didn't know until the middle of the third quarter when Melbourne just blew away. But it had everything. It had a goal that was supposed to be, that actually, if you look at the angle, Max Gorn, that was actually a goal. That was actually, so there's been a lot of angles. So you had so much controversy, but I love the flow of the game. The umpires didn't step in as much as they have been over the season. I don't know what anybody else thought, but I thought they allowed the game to flow, and I loved that. I love the whole thing. That game was a great game, and to see Melbourne win was just, even I had a tear, but it was just fantastic.
Years.
Yeah, 57 years.
Vince?
But to see the fact that the fact that you had, the players that couldn't be there, the Jim Steins, the Neil Danahers, all those type of people. It was just probably, everybody that I saw when I went on my walk today wearing Melbourne gear. You all said, great game, good on you. It's just incredible.
Even
great
Gary
game.
Lyon had a bit of a tear in his eye presenting the cup, so that was good.
Yeah.
Vince.
I have no doubt, Joe, that there would have been hundreds of thousands of people with a tear in their eye last night, even people that weren't following Melbourne or necessarily Melbourne supporters. I think it's just a great story when we see teams break long droughts. We saw it with the Western Bulldogs 5 years ago. Last night was destiny for Melbourne. It was their turn. We saw 15 or 16 years ago the Sydney Swans break a 72-year drought. So it is a wonderful story, and it's great to see. St Kilda's next in line, by the way. Their drought's only 2 years short of Melbourne, so they need to hurry up. But, look, I thought it was I echo Debbie's sentiments. I think it was a fantastic game. Certainly the end scoreline didn't indicate just how good a contest it was for most of the match. And when Melbourne hit top gear, weren't they just incredible to watch? It was just poetry in motion towards the end. It was just so good to watch a team, really just firing on all cylinders. And I think it was befitting of what Melbourne has done this year. I think they've been the best team all year. Yep. They got off to, I think, a 10 game, was it 10 or 9 or 10 games in a row, the first 10, 9 or 10 games of the season that they won. And then, of course, like most teams do at some stage during the year, they have a slight flat patch, but they never lost any games by any great margins. They were always in every single game. And I really do think that they deserved it. So, I think we'll no doubt, discuss it a bit more, but certainly you've touched on it. It was a wonderful result. I guess it was a great tribute to some fallen Melbourne contributors over the years, some great contributors to that club. People like Jimmy Steins. Dean Bailey was the coach of that team not so many years ago, and he's passed away. Robbie Flower. Even Troy Broadbridge I thought of yesterday, that young player who lost his life in the tsunami in Thailand. And people like that, I just think it's a great tribute to everyone who's contributed to that club and everyone who's been on that ride for 57 long years finally got to have a smile on their face and a tear in their eye last night. It was certainly a pretty easy tune to get into the spirit of last night, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? Jason, I'm sure you watched it in Singapore. What's your take?
Well, Joey, we spoke on WhatsApp.
Yes.
And I've got to admit, I backed the Dogs in by 12. I wanted the D's to win it for all of the history, the 57 years. I even said that Caleb Daniel was going to be the Norm Smith medalist. I don't know. I just think it's fabulous. And I want to reiterate what Vince said, not only for the fallen heroes of the Melbourne Football Club, but Nathan Jones. I was
going to mention them too.
Yeah, man. Like, that guy has been a stalwart for that club.
Yeah.
And he sacrificed himself to be with the birth of his kids and whatever else. That guy deserves a medal.
Yeah.
And the game was – I had to turn it off because it was just a blitzkrieg, and it was really, really poignant. And I think Nathan Jones deserves something from those guys.
He's interesting, though. He said during the week that he doesn't believe that players who don't play on the day deserve a medal. So I don't know if he was just trying to be a hero or whether he's serious. I mean, I saw him on he was on the front bar on Thursday night, and he said, he doesn't deserve a medal, but it's interesting.
I reckon you'll find, Joe, that the majority of AFL players believe that they don't think it's appropriate for everybody to get a medal just because you've been on the list or just because you played a few games during the year, that the medals should be reserved for the players who played on the day. Otherwise,
well, you look at the Bulldogs when they won. Bob Murphy. Bob Murphy, I mean, was a stalwart of the Bulldogs, and he didn't get a medal because he didn't play that game.
Well, it's not just that game. I don't think he played all year, pretty much. I think he did his knee very early on in the season, and it was season over for him after the first 3 or 4 rounds. So, where do you draw the line with these things? I'm not sure. It's almost sort of – I think that this giving everyone a medal thing is almost akin to what they do at school sports these days, where everyone gets a medal for competing in the local swimming competition.
Yeah, okay, sorry, Vince.
Yeah, everyone gets one of those little ribbons. But participation award. But
I know.
I think it really should be just for the players who play on the day. The interesting one, actually, to probably debate is whether young James Jordan should have got one. He never got onto the ground, but nevertheless, he's part of the 23 that were there ready to go. He just never got to have an opportunity to get on. I reckon they should have taken Stephen May off, saying he apparently went into the match with a hamstring injury. They should have taken him off with 10 or 15 minutes to go and said, listen, hobble off, will you? Make yourself look injured because we want to give young James a go on the ground. So anyway, I don't know why they didn't do that.
He did say that he was playing injured, and he did say that it was difficult, but he said, I can do this for 1 more hour and I'll tackle the surgery when it comes afterwards. But
Sure. I reckon they should have taken him off the ground after 10 or 15, with 10 or 15 minutes to go. They should have given young Jordan a go. Anyway.
Jason and I were talking about that. We were WhatsApping each other all the way through, and he's going, Stephen May doesn't look good. By the way, Jason, you owe me $10, and I can't remember what currency we settled on. US dollars, Singapore dollars, or Australian dollars?
Bitcoin, Joe. Bitcoin.
I'll take the Bitcoin.
Anyway.
It was very interesting. I can't remember whether it was Deb or Vince was talking about the style of play that the Melbourne players did. One thing I noticed yesterday was the difference between like our team, Carlton, and Melbourne and the Dogs. We get the ball, we kick it to someone, and that's it. Then they stand around with their hands on their head or on their on their hips, like, done my job. Whereas the Melbourne players, in particular, kick the ball, and just kept running and running and running and running. So I don't know if, Jason, you're our fitness guru sort of on the show. Do you think that's more fitness or more mental, or do you think that's just instinctive?
Joey, it's a combination of both. I think that it's imperative that there's a will to actually drive yourself. But if you haven't done the work, there's no way that you can actually continue. Like I always teach my people, if you bow down and you put your hand on your hips, or you bow down in front of somebody else, they already know that you have them beaten. They already know that you're gone. Mm-hmm. So whatever that, I mean, like just there is no other way other than just to keep running and to keep striving. And if you can't, then just get out of the game. There is no other way.
Yeah. Deb, I see you shaking, nodding your head, agreeing. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you look at the match, that first quarter from Melbourne, you looked at the match, no matter where the ball was, no matter what was going on, they were not only there for each other, but the moment the ball was out of their play or out of their control, they followed through. So exactly what Jay said, they didn't at any stage of the game give up. I'm sure they had a bit of a brain freeze because they allowed Bulldogs to catch up and overtake them, but they regrouped because at every contest there was always Melbourne players around. Their defense, their ability to move it out of the Bulldogs forward line was, you watch it, it was just like pure poetry, emotion. It was just beautiful to see because they gave it off, but they kept on going. You watch them and they just kept on going because
I guess confidence has a bit to play with that as well, as Jason would tell us. I thought I said this before the show. I thought the Bulldogs' performance was rather Carlton-esque in that we got in front and then we let the opposition kick 14 goals to lose. So Vince, what do you want to say about that?
Oh, Joe. I knew that would come up at some point with you. Yes, the consecutive goals tally was only 12 last night by the Bulldogs.
Yes.
We would have given them at least 15.
Yeah, before they kicked one themselves, and then they conceded another 4 in a row after that. But yeah, I think our tally this year was our highest tally was 19 goals against Port Adelaide, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I think it's pretty hard to stop a side like Melbourne when they get into that groove. You know, at one stage the score was 59-40 about halfway through the third quarter, and I was genuinely concerned. I thought, you know what, Melbourne are struggling here. They've kicked very inaccurately. I think they kicked 1 goal 7 since 5
goals 10, Vince, at that stage.
But at one stage they had kicked the last 8 scores were 1 goal 7, whereas the Bulldogs had kicked something like 8 goals 3 or something. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, from that point in time, from when the Bulldogs were 9 goals 5, 59, and Melbourne were 5, 10, 40, well, the end score ended up being 140. So Melbourne scored 16 goals 4 from that point in time to 117. It was just complete and utter obliteration of the opposition, and there was no way that anyone could stop that. I mean, even I think the coach of the Bulldogs, Luke Beveridge, acknowledged it in his press conference. He said, look, it was almost like in the blink of an eye, a 3-goal lead turned into a 4-goal deficit. And at three-quarter time, I think that the Bulldogs had the air taken out of their sails at that stage, and there was no coming back. And Melbourne just went on a rampage in that last quarter, scoring 9 goals to 1. And it was just, you know, the most complete demolition job in that last quarter that you've ever seen in a grand final.
As I said, Vince, very Carlton-esque, the performance.
Well,
very Carlton-esque.
You know what? If it was Carlton in there,
no,
Joe. If it was Carlton there instead of the Bulldogs, it would have been something like 30 goals to nothing by the end of the game. So,
that's right.
You know, the Bulldogs did a very good job of getting themselves not only back in the game after that first quarter deficit, but they really did put some pressure on and started getting Melbourne a little bit shaky I think the halftime break was a very good thing for the Melbourne team at that stage.
Oh,
they
yeah.
needed to regroup, just to take a deep breath and reset themselves again.
I'd love to know what Simon Goodwin said to them at halftime.
Well, apparently
worked,
he was
whatever
very
it is.
calm. That's one of the things about Goodwin. He's always calm. Just gets them to reset. You know, he reinforces the same messages, and he believes that they can execute, and they did, and they very much did that.
I'm going to talk a bit more about Simon Goodwin and maybe even Damien Hardwick a bit later when we talk about our coach. But Goz has put up a couple of comments. Hey, Goz, how you going? One of them, I heard yesterday or this morning, I can't remember when it was. I think I was listening to SEN about what a great job Western Australia did on putting on the grand final. And, you know,
I agree. I think it was amazing, fantastic effort.
Well, first of all, they've got the stadium that holds the 60-odd thousand people.
Yep.
But I want to ask each of you, because as you all know, the AFL have contracted the grand final to the MCG, I think, till the year 2053 or something, and it's been extended because the last two weren't there.
2053.
Sorry?
Debbie might have turned 50 by then.
Well, I want to get your thoughts about what do you think about maybe every fourth year or every fifth year that they actually move the grand final like they do in the Super Bowl, where, you know, just to sort of spread the game. I mean, yeah, we all know that, you know, let's face it, the AFL is predominantly the VFL with a few add-on teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is Melbourne? I suppose.
Do you really think it's just the VFL with a few add-on teams? I mean, you've now got an 18-team competition where 10 of them are based in Victoria, but 8 of them are based interstate.
Yeah,
so,
and one more will be in a couple of years' time, and one more will be based in Tasmania. You'll have the Tasmanian team.
Yeah,
you might even have another one in the Northern Territory too, just quietly.
Yeah,
so you might
right.
even have 20.
But I mean, if you were to build an AFL now, you wouldn't have teams like North Melbourne or, you know, St Kilda. And I'm just not picking on those. You may not even have a Carlton, right? You probably have a Melbourne and then Southeast Melbourne, Geelong, Sydney.
I think you're underestimating. I think you're underestimating what makes these clubs tick, Joe.
No, but
you start stripping them of their identity. You're playing with fire.
I'm not talking about the particular club. You could take any club, right? What I was saying is, if you were to build a national competition today, there would not be 10 teams in Melbourne.
What do you think, Jason?
Well, I think that there's a lot of actually ramifications of all of this, because it's all about the actual viewership. It's about the population demographics. There's so many different things that plays out. Like, you go to the Eastern Seaboard and it's rugby league. Now, I'm a rugby league guy. I played professional rugby league, so it's different. So I think that what you are all saying is it needs to be spread, and I think there needs to be a Tasmanian team. There definitely needs to be a Northern Territory team. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. I think if you want to have
there needs to be a Hobart team or a Tassie team.
Exactly. It needs to be a national competition. But it's not about that. It's about viewership, and it's about media money, and it's about all of those things. That it's about people through the door. Like in Hobart, how many people come through the door? Can the ticket sales contribute enough to actually sustain the team? I'd love to see a Tasmanian team. I'd love to see a Northern Territory team. That would make it true, and like even a North Queensland team. That would make it a truly national game. But I don't even think it's about ticket sales. I think it's about television revenue, to be honest. Correct.
Because that's all that sells now. I mean, you know, I look at some games. When St Kilda play North Melbourne, sometimes you're lucky to get 15,000 people there, right? But that game might be a great game, and it's on Prime TV. All I'm saying is, do we think that the grand final should also go to other states? Not every year, but in certain years.
Well, Joey,
shaking ahead.
Sorry, Deb. I'm just going to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
3.9 million people on average, tuned into the AFL Grand Final in Perth. 3.9, roughly speaking. So that's that's the highest ever. So, it doesn't really matter where it plays. It just needs people to watch.
That's only
Correct.
because all the people in Victoria were locked down and couldn't get out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think
Sorry,
you're
I had to
underestimating
dig that one in for you,
who would
Vince.
sit home and watch it anyway, Joe.
Yes.
I had to dig that one in. So I cut off Deb. So Deb, you don't agree? You think it should just stay at the G?
I think it should stay at the G.
Okay.
Because you've got to look at the grounds. I don't know if any of you've been to the ground in Adelaide. Yeah, it's a beautiful ground, but it's not big enough to hold a grand final. And then you've got to look at the Gabba. The Gabba's an okay ground, but it's not big enough to hold a grand final. At the moment, you've got the Sydney, the stadiums, the GWS stadium is not big enough, is not suitable to hold a grand final. And the stadium is Sydney, the Sydney Stadium. That's probably one of the worst stadiums I've ever been to because it's a horrible terrible stadium. So you've literally only got two choices. That's the MCG or in WA. At the moment, it would, and I don't think even GMHBA is a good enough stadium because you can't get the capacity. Because if you were to have that game, Melbourne Bulldogs at the G, you'd sell out 100,000 odd seats, which is why I don't think it'll ever be moved, the grand final. It'll be like moving the FA Cup final from Wembley. It'll never happen because you've got the facilities are there. The public transport system is there. You've got everything is there, centralized, and you've got the numbers. So which is why I don't think it'll ever be moved. I loved what WA did. I think what WA put on, the show they put on was fantastic. It was tremendous. It just goes to show we don't need overseas acts to entertain us anymore. We don't need
Bring
that
back
anymore.
Meatloaf.
Yeah. No, but you've got it. And I thought what they did was absolutely magnificent. What WA did in the 2-week time frame they had was fantastic. Good on them. But it won't
I didn't know who the guy in the blue tracksuit was, but that's okay.
Baker Boy. Baker Boy is really good.
Baker Boy.
Yeah, that's who it is. Is Baker Boy.
Why isn't he baking cakes then? Instead of singing. I want cake.
He's a hip hop. He's an Indigenous hip hop artist.
Sorry, DJ Deb. DJ Deb's in the house.
Yo.
Oh, there you
What's
go.
up?
I think I've opened up a can of worms here. Everyone's talking about national competitions. Goz is asking, do you think people will relocate? I mean, so we've had Brisbane relocate. We've had Sydney, or the Swans relocate. For me personally,
Joe? Sorry, go on. Keep going.
No,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, for me personally, I don't know if the 10 teams in Melbourne will survive. I hope they do, right? Because of what Vince brought up before, stripping people of their identity and tradition. I remember what it was like when Fitzroy left, living in Carlton all my life, had a few Fitzroy fans and they were devastated.
Well, is it ironic that this is the 25th? Now that we've just seen Melbourne win their premiership, it's actually on the 25th anniversary of when they were supposed to merge with Hawthorn back in 1996. Now that could very well have gone ahead if it wasn't for a couple of, strong-willed people like Don Scott from Hawthorn who just said, I'm not going to let this happen. And another guy called Brian Dixon, a former champion Melbourne player and politician who got involved in getting Joe Gutnick to save the Melbourne Football Club. So,
I think there are two clubs that are in danger. Sorry. Two clubs that are in danger. North Melbourne and Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast should be disbanded. I don't think that is probably just one. That is just a way. When you have 6,000-7,000 members and North Melbourne. North Melbourne could possibly merge with the Tasmanian team. I don't know. But those two clubs for me are the ones that are in danger. Because the others have got too much history. They'll never merge.
To be honest, Deb, I don't think the AFL will let Gold Coast fail. No. I think they'll just pump money. They make so much money out of the TV rights from the Carltons, the Collingwoods, the Richmonds.
Of course.
They'll just prop it up. But I think all four of us are in agreement that it needs to be a truly national competition and you have a team in Tassie and as Jason said. You know, even a team in Canberra. I mean, think of how many good footballers have come out of Canberra, right?
It's all about them.
Jason's
It's not about where footballers come from, Joe. It's about having a market. It's about having a market that you can sell to, and population and demographics. That's what it's all about. And that's the sort of research that the AFL would have been doing on places like Tasmania and the ACT and, you know, even far north Queensland, say in Cairns. They would have done a lot of homework on that.
But also you got to remember the resources. It's not just resources as in land, it's also resources as in players, coaching staff, all that type of stuff. You've got to understand, you know, you've got a lot of players coming out of these places that go to other clubs. So your pool, the talent pool, it gets decreased substantially if you don't have if you close those avenues off for other players, other teams.
I think the AFLW found that out too with the resources. You know, you're spreading too many players, and I think they've been quite smart in the way that they don't just let everyone in, and they just sort of gradually let teams in slowly.
Can I just say one thing on the stadium side of things? Look, I also agree with Debbie that in the end it's got to go back to the MCG. There is something, I guess, because of last night and how well it was done. You've got to take your hat off to everyone associated with you know, football in WA and the people who run that stadium. What a fantastic spectacle it was. I think that the twilight time slot's getting a lot more popularity because of this sort of thing, where at half time you've got the light shows and the fireworks and all that sort of stuff, and it's finishes early enough so that you can still celebrate afterwards. Because don't forget, it might have finished at 10 o'clock here in Melbourne, but it actually was only 8 o'clock in Perth. So there was plenty of time to celebrate after the win. And look, I'd love to see it do a travelling tour of Australia where it goes from Perth to Adelaide to Brisbane. Had it last year, but I just think realistically we're probably getting too carried away with one grand final held in Perth.
Yeah.
Which really was only done because of the COVID restrictions here in Melbourne. I would ask one question though, Debbie. If the two teams playing off in the grand final were West Coast and Fremantle, would you let them play the game in Perth, or would you say, no, you got to do it over here in Melbourne?
No, you got to do it over here in Melbourne.
Okay. Same with Adelaide and Port Adelaide. Would you tell them?
Same with Adelaide and Port Adelaide. You're still going to get the numbers of people going. You got to look at the facilities. I mean, you've been to Adelaide Oval.
I love Adelaide Oval. I think it's
it's a great place, but it's not a place for a grand final. I mean, hang on.
It can hold 55,000 people. It's only about 5,000 or 6,000 short of what the Perth Stadium did last night.
Yeah, but it can't hold 100,000 people.
You tell him, Deb.
There's not too many stadiums in the world. There's not too many stadiums in the world.
But you look at the English soccer. You look at the English football. What is there made? Where do they play the FA Cup? You've got to. I don't know if you've ever been to England, but if you look at the stadiums that they have in England, they're just magnificent. I mean, they're like MCGs all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
But where is the FA Cup finals held? Where are all those? They're held in one stadium, that is Wembley, irrespective of where the other teams come from.
Anyway,
Jason, what's wrong? You got your hands in your head. What's the problem?
Jason can't believe how much tripe we're talking.
I've got to tell you, like, firstly, Vince, Adelaide Oval would be a fantastic venue for an AFL Grand Final. I lived in Adelaide for quite a number of years, and they would embrace it just as the Perth citizens, and it was a fantastic a showcase of AFL in Perth. The AFL in Adelaide would be just the same. Deb, you don't actually really know what you're talking about. I've traveled to 100 countries.
Be careful, Jason.
I've traveled to 100 countries. And you talk about Wembley and you talk about the O2 Stadium and you talk about that. They're the only stadiums that you can actually say hold that amount of people. So please don't.
Hang on a second, Jace. Jace, before you go any further, I was born and I lived in England. I went to soccer matches.
So
I know.
You explain to me how many
So
stadiums.
I know what I'm talking about.
How many stadiums?
I've been to
matches. How many stadiums house 100,000 plus people in the States?
I never said that. I never said that these stadiums house 100,000 people. I said they're exactly the same as the Adelaide ones and exactly the same as the Perth ones. That they hold a substantial amount of people.
You didn't actually say that, but okay. You didn't actually say that, but okay.
Get your facts straight first, Jason.
No, you get your facts straight.
Don't come down upon me.
You get your facts straight.
No, don't come down upon me. I actually find it very offensive the way you're talking and the way you react.
Okay, I find it very offensive that you're talking to me like this.
I've actually lived there. I lived there a lot of my life there, so I've been to the matches there.
Okay.
Really, truly, I know what I'm talking about.
Guys,
Joe, take some control here, will you? We've got the red corner and the blue corner. Who's in the blue corner?
To be honest, I was listening to both. I do understand both.
There's no 100,000 places. No 100,000 plus places. There's none.
Never said that. I never said that.
Yeah,
never
you
said
did.
that.
I think what
No,
Deb's getting at,
never
Jason,
said
is
that.
that a lot of people, more than 60,000. But look, it is what it is. Let's move on. Hey guys, enough about the grand final and stadiums and stuff like that. Let's talk about our beloved Carlton Football Club. So this week, we had the announcement of I was nearly going to say Clarkson. Michael Voss. I was nearly going to say Michael Voss is the coach. Okay, it's been, I don't know, mixed reactions. Some people are calling him, and I'll quote Vince here, he's the Stephen Bradbury, where all the coaches we wanted fell down, and there he is, Ross.
I said it felt like that. Don't get me wrong. I wish Michael Voss all the very best, Joe.
No, we're not.
All I'm saying is it felt like he was the last in line of the experienced coaches, and all the ones in front of him fell over. Whether it was Clarkson or Ross Lyon or Brad Scott or Chris Scott or Don Pike, and he was probably the last out of half a dozen experienced ones. That's all.
So I just want to
Nathan Buckley, another one.
Yeah, I just want to get people's views, and I spoke about this with Vince before. I seem to think it's going to be more about who he gets as assistant coaches as well, not just him. But I mean, if our players can play like he played, he was very hard, and he was a pretty good player. I'll be quite happy. I'll let Deb go. Deb, what do you think about the appointment of Michael Voss?
I wrote a piece on my blog, and basically my feeling is, I think the Carlton did the dirty on David Teague in the first place. I mean, you look at if you look at the history with Simon Goodwin, when he was 2 years ago in 2019, when he was in exactly the same position as Carlton is in now, but the board supported him and turned him around. Anyway, given that,
same as Dimmer at Richmond.
Yeah, same as Clarko. Same thing. Anyway, so my hope is people are going ballistic. People are jumping up and down saying how wonderful is Michael Voss, and he's going to bring a lot of his skills and his knowledge and his know-how to the team, and he's going to change things up. I am not, based on what we've gone through in the past 10 years, I'm not going to jump up and down. I want to see the results. I'm tired of listening to the talk. I'm tired of listening to the rhetoric that comes out from the club. I want to see them back a coach. I want to see them support him when he's down. I want to know I want to see where we stand middle of the season at the bye next year. If he has turned the club around and the team around, fantastic. I will support the team. I will support the club. I will support everything. But I want to see it first. I'm not going to jump up and down and say, yes, he's the Messiah. We've heard that 3 times already, and not interested. I want to see what he does. I want to see results and not words.
Yeah,
but I will support him. Good luck to him. I hope he succeeds. But
yeah, I do too. Vince, have you say?
Well, again, I have to say I echo Debbie's words. I mean, I wish Michael Voss all the best, and I really hope it's a successful appointment and that he leads us to the promised land.
Yeah.
I think that's what we all want to see. Ultimately, if we're genuinely lovers of the Carlton Football Club, we want to see ourselves finally get out of this mire of mediocrity and failure that we've been experiencing for 20 years, or the better part of 20 years. We've actually had the last 6 senior coaches all leave the club because they've been sacked, and sacked before their current contract was up for renewal. So, could we see the same thing happen to Michael Voss? Absolutely, I think we could.
Do you reckon we could get odds on that?
If we don't make finals next year and we don't make finals the year after, you can just see it that the patience level will draw thin again, and the window of opportunity with this current group will be seen to be closing. And if by the 3rd year of his contract we're not looking any better, he'll probably face the same ultimate destiny as all of his predecessors. Because the one thing that hasn't changed about this club that people don't seem to want to acknowledge is that it's the same forces that keep running the club. They might have a change of president, you might have a change of a few board members, but it's at the end of the day the same powers that are running the club and pulling the strings. They will have done the same thing here as they've done in previous years. They get someone in, it's then up to them, and if they don't succeed, see you later. You go from messiah to scapegoat within 2 or 3 years. So what they have done this time that is encouraging is appoint a really good CEO in Brian Cook, clearly someone who's got ability, clearly someone whose success was built on having a good culture at the club. Hopefully he can drive that from his position down, and that he's not too heavily influenced or interfered with by the powers that be above him. But he's only there for 3 years too, because one thing he's already done is announced when his finishing date is before he's even started.
Yeah.
So, clearly it was a case of, oh, look, I'm ready for retirement, but if you really want me, and they've obviously, given him a fairly decent financial incentive to do it, I'll do it for 3 years, but that's it. After 3 years, I'm out of here. So that's not someone who's committing long-term to the success of the club. I see it as more like a Paul Roos appointment that Melbourne did, where they got someone in to really just fix that side of things for a fixed term. Paul Roos did it for 3 years. I think he initially committed to 2 with a possible 3rd, and in the end he stayed for that 3rd. And then he passed the baton down to Simon Goodwin. But that's as a senior coach. I'm talking about Brian Cook doing it at CEO level. And they've already announced that they'll be getting him to pass the baton down to someone else at the club when the time comes. Now, who that person is, we don't know. Naturally, they'd be expecting him to groom somebody to then take over as a CEO. But to me, Brian Cook's not totally committed to this. He's only committed to doing the best he can for a fixed period of time. If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, he walks away anyway after 3 years. So,
well,
anyway, in the meantime, we hope that he has a very good influence over the club and that Michael Voss succeeds. But look, time will tell. I'm still, the best way to describe how I feel about this, Joe? Cautious optimism.
Well, that's what someone's done. That's what Sandra said. Cautiously optimistic for the future.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't even say that. Yeah,
Jace, so
that's how I feel about it.
Jace?
Okay, so I've got 3 points. Voss is a boyhood blue bagger. So that's a major plus, because he's got, maybe has the passion and the desire to strive and get us to succeed and finish the job that he's on the journey. 2, he was terrible at Brisbane. He was terrible. And, as a coach there, I hope that he's learned his lessons. And 3, everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves a second chance. Has he learned his lessons? Do you connect with players, and do you understand the wrongs that you did, or not the wrongs, but the path that you shouldn't follow? like I've been in this situation myself. I've been sacked and whatever else. You need to learn the lessons, and you need to be able to process it all and think, how do I change? How do I be better? Has Michael Voss done that? 8 years at Port Adelaide? Let's hope so. I think the guy deserves his chance. He's a boyhood blue beggar, and I think he's really going to try to drive something. I'm just calling it out. I think he does well, but maybe he doesn't. It's up to you guys.
Yeah. Hey, Vince, I think these are addressed to you. Where is it? Adrian Garrow, I don't know who he is, but Adriano, sorry. Let's keep being negative to fit your agenda. And you can keep saying you're cautiously optimistic, but I think that's meant to be your naivety.
Maybe you should go back to school and learn how to type, learn how to spell.
Keep sleeping out in your contract.
Yeah.
Adrian,
sleeping out? What's sleeping out? What does that mean?
I don't know. You're more than welcome to come on, Adriano, but I don't think we're being negative. I just think that
what I think he's referring to, if I can try and anticipate what he's getting at, because of our recent attempt to get the members an EGM, what Adrian must be accusing me of is being negative about Michael Voss to fit some sort of agenda that I have against the board. No, I've just said up front, I hope it works. I hope it's a screaming success. I hope we make the finals next year and do what Melbourne's done within the next year or two. Right? Nothing would make me happier. But I guess what I'm saying is I can only feel the way I feel. I'm cautiously optimistic, meaning I'm hopeful. I'm not confident. I'm hopeful. But I'm also being cautious because I know that our club has made appointments in the past where they've brought on what they see as the Messiah, and then they leave them to their own devices. And then if it doesn't work and it doesn't ultimately bring the success that they want, they chop them. They continue to claim scapegoats rather than actually assess their own performance and their own strategy and look at what they've done to support their coach. Because one of the things that we discussed on this program and other programs before, Joe, is that David Teague was never properly supported. Now,
exactly.
If David Teague, whether he's the right coach or not, whether he can coach or not, I don't know. It's not the issue, though. The issue is if a club appoints somebody to that position, it's incumbent on them to provide all of the possible support that they can for that coach to be successful and surround that coach with good quality assistant coaches, fitness and high performance staff, all of that sort of thing that will help him bring out the best in the players. It's all about the environment and the culture, and not one person can do it alone. Simon Goodwin will tell you last night that it's not because of him. It's because of the whole club and the whole support network around him that helps this team get to where it got last night. Jason, what do you reckon?
Can I just say something before I get Jason? Adriano's put up a point, and I was just about to say this, that he says from all reports the club attempted to help him with assistance.
Do we know that? Are we going to start relying on reports now, are we?
No, well, hang on. All I'm going to say is that David Teague, from all reports, David Teague picked his assistants, right?
Mm.
So I can't say that the club didn't support him in that way.
So hang on. How's the club supporting him by having a football director in Chris Judd that was missing in action for 2 years? Well, how does the club support David Teague when John Barker left halfway through the year? Okay? I mean...
Yeah, but we don't know I know why Chris Judd walked away, right? You know why Chris Judd walked away.
Yeah.
Right? So,
but does that make it acceptable for the board not to replace him with another football director?
I'm saying
they should have replaced Chris Judd 2 years ago if he was going to walk away.
Yeah, well, the board
Why didn't they replace him 2 years ago?
Well, he was
because they thought they could get away with not replacing him. That's the issue. They thought they could get away with it because it's COVID years. You don't have to go to the games. You don't have to. But basically, he wasn't anywhere, not asking questions, not doing anything.
And the board of directors should have pulled him up on that and said, "Hey, you're either in or you're out." And
well, if you're not going to be here, resign and we'll replace you.
Yes,
but they didn't do that. They thought they could let it go.
You're in or you're out.
Well, this is where I say the board has not operated like a functional board. It's been dysfunctional for a long time. And people say that Luke Sayers is the new president and they want to give him a go and all that. Okay, I hear you. But don't deny the truth. The facts are that Luke Sayers has been on that board for 9 years. He was joined at the hip with Lejudice. They're very close. He was joined at the hip with him in all major decisions, including the hiring and firing of 3 coaches. Now, he's escaped accountability. So have other members of the board that are still there. Okay? So don't give me the whole, Luke Sayers is the fresh-faced, brand-new golden-haired boy. He's not.
I never said that.
So, but what I'm saying to people like Adriano is that I have an agenda. I'll tell you what my agenda is. It's for the best interest, what's in the best interest of the Carlton Football Club. I want to see us finally get out of this rut of mediocrity that we've had for 20 years. And people like Adriano maybe should come on and explain how he can justify and defend a board of directors that's overseen the hiring and firing of the last 6 coaches. How do you defend that? And yet they themselves are never held accountable. Not once have they ever held themselves as accountable as they've held everyone else that they employ underneath them.
Jason, you're in the background clapping. What have you got to say? We went through this with Dodsey, didn't we, on one of our Asian shows?
I only have total support for what Vince is saying, because in the end, there has to be a communal bond for success. You need to actually make sure that everyone buys into the process, and everybody, and we're talking from the front door to the back door to the property stewards, everybody else. There's obviously a disconnect somewhere. From fitness staff to coaches and whatever else, something has gone wrong. So whatever, I agree with what Vince is saying. So he's, just get the process in place. And process is an easy word to throw out. Just make sure that we have an identity moving forward that makes us a threat. If we're a threat, we're a chance. If we're not, we're just going to be where we've been for the last 20 years. Yeah, and exactly. I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Vince. Whatever you're saying, I'm going to support you, man, because I know what you're saying and I know how you're saying it. And legit, coaches need to buy into the fact. Players need to buy into, this is where I need to be. This is my role. This is how I'm playing. And the fitness staff need to do the same thing. And you know what? If everyone does that, success is around the corner. It's
By the way, Jason, can I just make one point that that should be made about the word support? We're not talking about the club supporting their coach.
Yeah, man.
That also includes, and this is where Chris Judd wasn't around to do this.
Yeah, I agree,
This includes challenging the coach.
Yeah.
This includes asking questions of the football department and finding out what's going wrong. Because if they're all just left to their own devices to keep doing what they've always done, well, guess what? Every week you're going to still see 6 goals in a row scored.
Board accountability, my friend. Board accountability.
So
yeah, I agree.
Part of support means challenging people too. It's not just what can we do to help. It's also asking, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? This is the result of what you're doing at the moment. How can we fix it?
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that for a long time.
No.
Correct.
Deb, you've written a couple of pieces on this, and you're sitting there very quietly in pensive thoughts. What have you got to say on the matter?
Well, I agree with Vince. I do agree with Vince. And I've seen some people are writing, why are you being so negative? Let's support the coach and everything. I don't think any of us is saying we're not going to support the coach. Not one of us has said that we're not going to support the coach.
That's right.
And we do agree that because, if you look at, there's only 2 assistant coaches that are left at the club now. That is Luke Power, and the other one is Matty Cruiser. the ruck coach. So nobody is saying we're not going to support the coach and we're not going to get behind him. What we're saying is that we've gone down this path before with Bolton, with Teague, and we just don't want to see it happen again. So we will, what I would say to those people who say we are negative and we're not supporting the coach, we want to support the coach. We want it to work. We want this whole thing to work. But the board has to really take some accountability for what has gone on in the past. And the fact is that they're not. And the fact is that this could happen in another 2 years' time. So for us to turn around and say, no, you know what, wholeheartedly, hand on heart, I am going to get up, jump up and down and be excited about what's going on at the club when we've gone through this before. Who's to say that in 2 years' time it won't happen again?
And I think that's our point, Dad. Yeah.
That's our point. But a lot of people are saying we're negative. I was accused on a comment from a blog that I'm sitting on the fence. I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm still going to support the club. I'm still going to pay my membership. I'm still going to do all that. I'm still going to go to the game. I just want...
Just because you question what the club's doing or questioning what the board's doing doesn't make you less of a supporter.
No.
In fact, in a lot of ways, I think it shows you think a lot more about what's going on rather than just accepting blindly like a sheep what the club is telling you, and therefore you just buy into everything that they try to sell you. I mean, this club has made an art form out of using smoke and mirrors to deliver its message, which often isn't the real picture. It often isn't really what's going on. So I'm sorry, but to me, the club has lost my trust. This board has lost my trust. That's one of the reasons why I did what I've been doing, is because I think this board has lost its relationship with its member base because of how it has operated and how it has tried to deceive and how it has tried to entrench its power at the members' expense. And if people only really understood and appreciated what they were trying to do, they might then understand why I've been doing what I've been trying to achieve, which is an EGM, so that the members can decide what they want. Pure democracy. But yet again, people seem to think I must have some sort of personal agenda or, looking for some...
Vince,
I didn't do anything. I didn't catch
them. I just want to say something. I just want to say, for me personally, I want a line drawn in the sand right now. I want them to draw a line saying we are not going to go down the same path we've been going down for the past 10 years. I want them to turn around and say that irrespective of what happens in the next 3 years of Michael Voss's contract, we are going to support and we are going to publicly support and back him no matter what. If they can achieve that and do that with who they're going to bring in as assistant coaches and to help him, absolutely, I will jump up and down. But right now, I am just standing on the line waiting for them to draw that line and saying, this is who we're bringing on. This is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to back him for the next 3 years, irrespective of what happens. So we don't go down that same path again.
What happened to you?
Sorry, Joe. This happens to me at every show. After around about 3/4 of an hour to an hour, someone at the football club cuts my line. No, I'm only kidding.
It wasn't me. Hey, Vince,
no, not someone at the football club. I don't know. I just lose the line for some reason. Go on.
While I've got you there, I want to put up a statement, and I want you to answer this because I think it's aimed at you in particular. It's from Ross and Angela Fiore, and they're going, how many directors currently on the board do you want to go? What would an EGM do to the club other than split it in half and destabilise it? Brian Cook will surely take charge of the club. Now, before you answer that, I want to explain to a few people because I think people don't understand how boards work. Brian Cook is not part of the board, right? He's the CEO. Now, unless he goes on the board as an executive director, he has nothing to do with board decisions. And to my knowledge, he's not an executive director. He's merely the CEO. And as Jason and I have found out many times from his good mate Dodsey, who's an international coach, it's the CEO's role to filter down the message from the board. So, Ross, we don't want... Vince is not saying get rid of all the directors. All Vince is asking for, and I'm putting words in Vince's mouth and I'll let him speak, all Vince is saying is let's have a democratic process to vote who we want to run the club. if we have this democratic process and the 8 current incumbents get voted on, I don't think Vince is going to go, oh, well, that's not fair. He's going to say, good, we've had the democratic process. Let's go for it. So, Vince, can you just elaborate a bit more on that for me, please?
Sure thing. Look, the first thing is, you're right, Brian Cook's the CEO. He's not part of the board. He will be running the club day to day because that's his job. That's what he gets paid to do.
Yeah.
But you're right. His job is to basically implement the strategy that the board sets out. Now, by the nature of what Ross has said there, I don't know if you can put it up again so I can double check what his words are. But he's saying how many more directors currently on the board do you want to go? When he says how many more directors, he's insinuating there, quite correctly, that 4 of them have already been replaced in recent weeks. And that, to a large extent, has actually occurred because of the pressure that I've been putting on. Because a lot of those directors that have gone were some of the more longer-standing directors that have been there for too long and have presided over a lot of mediocrity and a lot of failure.
But
I've had a lot of people
left.
tell me that you can take a bit of credit for that, Vince, because you've shaken the place up, and so needed it. What's that?
They voluntarily left. It wasn't because we said we don't want you.
No, Joe. What you got to understand is that there's at least 1, maybe even 2 of the 4 that departed that weren't expected to depart. The only 2 that were announced earlier this year was Legiudice because he reached his 12-year limit, and Chris Judd had already announced that this would be his last year as well. Now all of a sudden we get 2 more who weren't expected to go have gone, and a lot of that's been because of this perception that the board is full of people that have been there for too long, presided over all of this failure and mediocrity. And Luke Sayers, as the incoming president, he's decided to bring in a shake-up. Now, the one thing I'll say about that shake-up is it would have been a great opportunity for Luke Sayers to fill the board with people who have got high football IQ and people who can actually make a difference at the club, at the levels of the club that really matter. Within the football departments, that's where the culture needs to change. What has he done? He's brought on 1 Brownlow medalist to replace another. That's fine. He's brought in Greg Williams to replace Chris Judd. The other 3, all connected with him. And by the way, 2 of them have a pretty serious conflict of interest. Okay, so yet again, more corporate mates at the big end of town. What difference are they going to make? You got one of them there who's a sponsor of the club. That's inappropriate for him to have a seat on the board. Another woman who he's brought on, her and her husband sold their PR agencies to directors on the board, who are still directors of those companies, who feed work to those companies from the Carlton Football Club, and yet they parachute her into a board position.
Well, Vince,
what does that say? Ross Fiore, if you really want to stand up for your board, why don't you come out and tell people all about those relationships? What are those board members going to do to help the club? They're mates that are there to build up numbers for Luke Sayers on the board so that they're just going to vote everything that he wants. That's what a lot of these people do. They bring on mates so that they vote exactly the way they want them to vote. Now, there was an opportunity there to put some real football smarts on the board, and they missed the opportunity again. But I'll say this, one of the reasons that I called for an EGM is that those 4 brand new directors should be brought up before the members. I don't care who they are. When you get casual vacancies filled, those positions should be verified and ratified by the members. And the other 4 directors, they're still part of the old board. They've never been made accountable for the failure and mediocrity that they presided over, such as Luke Sayers for 9 years, over the previous decade. So they should all go up. Let the members decide. Let the members decide which of these board members they want to continue and which ones they want to put on in their place, if any.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? So Ross has said those new directors have to go up for election. So no, why not run candidates?
Not all of them do. No, it's not right.
Well, that's. I was just
That's
about to
not
say
the
they
truth.
don't.
No, that is
That's
incorrect.
not true, is it?
No, 3 directors every year have to go up.
Yeah.
Okay, and 2 of them are going to be Luke Sayers and Paddy Kinnersley, part of the old board. And there's only going to be one other that goes up, and it might even be one of their other candidates, David Campbell. So maybe none of the new directors will be up for election this week, this coming AGM. So I'm sorry, Ross, but you don't know what the bloody hell you're talking about.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Yep.
Debbie's put a comment up. I don't really understand. I can't listen to this. The sound is crisp. What? I don't know. I'm going to leave it because sorry, Debbie. Maybe you might want to type it in English.
What's
Not
going
me.
on?
It's not me.
No, Debbie O'Connor.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And Ross, they're not. There's no such thing as a casual director, mate. You're a director or you're a director. No such thing as casual.
I'm telling you that at the next AGM, it'll only be 3 directors, and 2 of them will be Paddy Kinnersley and Luke Sayers, the president, and there'll be one other where there'll probably be a name drawn out of a hat. It'll either be David Campbell or one of the new directors that's coming on.
Well, what interests me though is you're talking about these related party transactions. I'd be interested to see if they come out with that in the annual report, which they're meant to. Any related party transactions, but I'm sure they won't because.
Well, you know how they get around that, Joe? They say that so long as it's approved by the board, that they can still come on. Well, of course they're going to get approved by the board. The board and the president is the one that's invited them on. So why aren't they going to get approved?
Yeah.
This is where it's wrong. It's wrong.
Let's move on. Let's get off that topic. But it is. I mean, I don't think what Vince is doing is trying to split the club. I think all Vince is trying to do.
That's another thing I want to say, Joe. Just before I finish, this absolute crap that I keep hearing from people that you're destabilising the club because you want to introduce democracy for the first time in 20 years. Are you kidding me? I think the club's done a damn good job of creating its own destabilisation over that period of time, and especially in recent weeks and months. I think all of the destabilisation has happened from within, nothing to do with what I'm doing. So I don't buy that rubbish argument that if you know what, Joe, I liken it this way. Think about politics. If you didn't have a contest of parties every 3 or 4 years at either federal or state level, would you ever have any democracy?
No.
So if anyone put up a challenge to the sitting government, they're seen as destabilising the country? Surely not. So why aren't we looking at it that way at a football club? At the end of the day, this board, if it held itself as accountable as it does to everyone else that it employs, we wouldn't need someone like me to hold an EGM. And by the way, for those of you who are interested, I did everything by the book. I got a petition drawn up by a corporate lawyer. Did everything that you could be asked of. Okay? Got all of the signatures, lodged it at the club. Everything was done properly. What have they chosen to do? Get a lawyer to pick the crap out of it and say, in our interpretation, this is not right and that's not right. So therefore, we're going to call it invalid. Now, the reality is that allegation doesn't have to be factual. It doesn't have to be proven. It's just got to be an allegation. And that's all they have to do is to allege that it's invalid, and therefore they won't give us a meeting. So Luke Sayers, on the day we lodged that petition on radio on 3AW, when he was asked about it, he said, that's the beautiful thing about football clubs. They're democracies, true democracies. If he's got the signatures to go ahead with it, away we go. That's what he said. 3 weeks later, what has he done? Hidden behind his lawyers. And proven that he's a coward and he's a hypocrite and he will not give the Carlton members the democracy that he said he would give them.
So next steps for you?
Well, obviously there are legal options available to us. Some are very expensive. There's also another potential option for a second petition, but I really don't want to go down that track if I can avoid it. I've currently written a letter back to Luke Sayers, and I'm hoping to get a response this week to a proposal I've made to him.
All right. So watch this. People watch this space. I think we've had enough about the EGM. Just look, we've been going for an hour. I think we'll finish up in the next 15 minutes. So we'll just go through.
Yeah.
Football season may be over the games, but now we're coming up to the interesting period, which is first of all the trade and then the draft. Trade starts. I think it starts 4th of October.
Yeah.
If I'm incorrect.
Tomorrow week. Yeah.
Yeah, we've already had one player after Greg Williams came out and said everyone's happy who's wanted to leave, which is Sam Petreski-Seaton. My mail is that Michael Voss is going to try and talk him into staying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have my own thoughts about Sam Petreski-Seaton. I think he's got great skills, but I think he's rather lazy. Maybe he comes across lazy, but that's just my view. So without going into naming players, what type of players do you think we need? So I'll start with you, Jason.
Thanks, Joe.
That's all right.
Toss me in the deep end.
Well, I'll go first. I think we need a ruckman, right? I think we really need a ruckman, but they're not on don't grow on trees.
Okay, we've just re-signed Pero for 2 years, and I think TDK is developing nicely. There is not many ruckmen around, so we can go into the marketplace, and I don't think anything's going to happen in that space. So I would suggest I don't know whether Chera is the right guy for our midfield, but we just need to start playing guys in their right positions. SPS, Michael Gibbons, if he gets another contract, who knows what's happening in that space. We play we get all of these really good midfielders and we play them in all different positions. And then we say, but you're not good enough because you haven't got, the stats to actually prove that you're worthy. So, man, I think we've got a great list. I think we don't need to go too deep. We get one or two. Maybe we get somebody like I can't think of the guy, but the guy from Sydney. But he's going to be expensive. It's going to cost us early draft picks. I think the people that we I think Voss needs to set himself and now say, this is my club. This is the direction that we are traveling. These are my assistants, and these are the people that I'm picking, and this is the direction we're going. I think that needs to be the place.
Okay. So Steve's actually said that. He said, forget the players, we need to fix the culture from the board table. Well, yeah, I agree, Steve, but unfortunately, unless an EGM or a board election happens, that ain't going to happen. So as much as I agree with you, we can just concentrate on trade, and that's irrespective, that's going to happen. So, Deb, what about yourself?
First of all, I'll start off with the fact is that we need another ruckman. We don't. We actually have 3 ruckmen. We have Pitternet, we have Markov, and we have Tom de Corning. Now, the reason why we've got Markov and we've got Pitternet is to allow TDK, who I think will be an exceptional ruckman, to give him more time to develop and to grow. So we don't need another ruckman. We really don't need, and I personally don't think we need another ruckman. SBS, irrespective of what Michael Voss says or does, he's going to go. He's actually said it beginning of last year. He's homesick. He wants to go back to his family and Western Australia. So I don't care what happens. He's gone. I think he's gone. So I think what we need is, as Gina says, we need another midfielder who's got a bit of oomph, who's got a bit of guts and got a bit of grunt in the midfield. We need help down in the midfield. We need some more depth down in our back line as well. You can't allow Liam Jones and Wiedering to do a lot of it. We do have others, but we need a bit more grunt. I think we need more grunt in those areas. That's my take.
Hopefully Caleb Marchbank will play next year.
Yes.
Although he's been out for 2 years. So
but then you got Cunningham as well, who's been injured as well. And I think when he's fit and ready,
we'll see him till the middle of the year though, Deb, because of his knee. But
That's
Let's
right.
hope. Someone's written, why is Chera not the right guy? Who said he's not the right guy? Vince, did you say that? Or oh,
Nope.
okay. Jace, why isn't he the right guy, do you think?
I didn't say he's not the right guy. I just said that perhaps he's not the right guy.
Oh, okay.
He's
Cool.
an
I
inside
think he'll be
midfielder.
incredible. I think he will be great.
Well, Deb, good for you. I appreciate your input. We have inside midfielders. We have midfielders on our list like there's no tomorrow. Let's play them in their proper positions, and let's just see what happens.
And let's hope that Michael Voss brings in the right assistant coaches. So I don't know who he's going to pick, but the one that got me, I spoke to Vince about this the other day. Can someone explain to me how Luke Power was voted by the Coaches Association, I think it is?
Yeah.
As the best assistant coach when he, at the start of the year, he wasn't even an assistant coach.
No.
He's head of player development and was only made assistant coach after round 12 when John Barker left. So he must be bloody sensational to get assistant coach of the year after 10 rounds. I'm not having a go at the guy, but that just baffled me. But anyway,
That says more about the assistant coaches that are out there, Joe. Well, none of them good enough to win the award.
What would the Melbourne assistant coaches be saying now as well?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I'm good on Luke. I mean, I'm happy for Luke Power, and he's obviously highly regarded, and we're very lucky to have him. And with Michael Voss coming in, they're two premiership teammates at Brisbane, so hopefully there's a bit of chemistry between the two of them in the way they think and the way they do things. But I would have thought that there'd be a lot of other assistant coaches that have actually coached for a full season rather than just 10 rounds that may have given him a bit of competition. But anyway, who knows how they award these things?
Sailor V.
Yeah.
Would it be the case that he's actually highly regarded, that he actually got the job?
Could be.
He got the award.
Could be. Yeah.
Could be.
Or it might have even been the impact.
ridiculous.
Might have even been the impact that he's had on the midfield.
Huge impact.
since
Because we
coming
were
in.
awesome. Yeah, we were awesome.
Yeah.
Where did we finish?
I don't know. Hey guys,
I don't know.
Hey guys, we've been going for just over an hour, and we've had a couple of battles. I mean, Jason and Deb, we can continue that one on. But look, this is what this show's about. Everyone.
Who's
is
in the
entitled
blue
to an
corner?
opinion.
Who's in the blue corner, Joe?
I'll
That's the
go
name
Deb.
of our channel, in the blue corner. So
Yeah,
someone's
Deb
got to
can
be
be
in
in
there.
the blue corner. Jason
ready,
can be
Deb?
the challenger. Deb's the undisputed heavyweight champion.
Believe
of our
me,
channel.
Deb's always in the blue corner.
Undisputed. We've
Always
unified
on the
all
side
the
of the club.
titles, and Deb's holding the unified title. I don't want to get in the ring with her. I'm scared.
I've done that a couple of times. I've done that a couple of times, and I'm still recovering from the bruises.
I never lose. I never lose. I'm ready to roll.
Hey, Rob's asked about what do you think we'd give for Chera? We're not going to discuss that this week. We're going to keep that for next week. So next week's show, we'll talk exclusively about trade. I think we'll find out a little bit more this week about players that get signed, players that get delisted. The only person I know that's been delisted so far is Levi Casbolt. That's the only person I've heard that's been delisted. All of the others, I mean, we signed Ed Curnow, but we knew that was happening. We signed Jack Silvani during the week for 2 years, I believe.
Can I just make a point about that, Joe?
You may, yes.
And I'd like to ask Debbie and Jace the question as well. On what basis would you be signing up players now in advance of signing up a coach? Like, why did it have to be done then to give Ed Curnow another year or give Jack Silvani another 2? Or doesn't matter which players. Surely you get your coach in and get his input on who he thinks he wants and doesn't want and all that before you make these decisions to commit the club to another year or 2 of signing up players. Like, look, where were they? Where else were they going to go? Was anyone else bashing their door down?
Well, before
Seriously.
they answer, Ed Curnow was offered the contract in round 10 or 11, so I don't know why they just announced it now. But seriously, I think you've got every right to say to players, listen, whatever offers we made you in round 10 and 11, if you haven't taken it up by the end of the year and the coach is now gone, all bets are off. Yeah.
You're not guaranteed anything until we get another coach. And that coach may very well say, see you later, Ed Curnow, you're out. You want another year? Go and find it with someone else. Now, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that that's my view, but surely you're going to get your new coach to have an input into that decision before you finally make it. I would have thought.
Yeah.
Maybe everyone disagrees with me. I don't know.
No, I agree with you in some respect, but with regarding to Jack Silvani, I think it would have been one of the worst looks the club has gone down, if they didn't re-sign Jack Silvani, third generation Silvani footballer. If they didn't re-sign him, I think the club would have been stormed. There would have been placards. There would have been protests. So with Jack Silvani, he was always going to.
With respect, should the surname make any difference?
You're right. I agree. He actually did play a fair. He did actually.
I think he had a good year, really good year. I think he deserves another contract. You think he deserves another contract? Everyone probably does. And I don't think there'd be any doubt that Voss would want to keep him too. But surely you don't, on principle, you don't make these decisions and commit the club to contracts, expensive contracts with players until you know what your new coach wants.
PR.
I mean,
that's what it's called, PR.
Yeah, but should we be making decisions like this, football decisions based on PR?
You're right, but that's what I think it is. That's what I think it is. It's just PR. I agree with you.
2 days before the coach is announced. Ridiculous, right?
Maybe, we don't know. Maybe they rang up Michael Voss 2 days before and said, hey, listen, you're going to be the coach. Do you mind if we sign Jack Silvani? Yeah. I doubt it.
That's why you're the host.
I doubt it very much. Look, I agree. I'm really stunned as to why you would make those decisions.
Joe, what do you reckon? We've got 15 minutes left. Why don't we ask Debbie and Jason who they would, very quickly, if you can have a look at your Carlton list of players, who would you either attempt to get a trade for, or if you couldn't get a trade, you'd delist them if they were out of contract?
Oh, could we do that next week? Because
I thought that's what we were doing this week.
No, we'll do that next week.
Because we're already trading by this time next week, aren't we?
No, it starts Monday the 4th of October.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with the free agency one. I think that starts Friday.
Yeah.
Restricted and unrestricted free agency. Yeah. But what ask Jason? He's no guarantee to be with us next week because he's probably had a gutful of us this week.
Well, I haven't signed his contract yet because I've got to put it to the board of directors. And I couldn't get Deb and Vince. So Jason, your contract will be in the mail this week.
I do have to say that I think that Debbie will actually kibosh me as of right now. So one person that I would definitely re-sign, regardless, and I don't care what anyone else says, but Michael Gibbons needs to be given a shot and he needs to be played in the midfield, and that guy deserves another contract, regardless, hamstring issues, whatever else. The guy is a player. 2 JJ listed medals. He's the best in the VFL. You're going to give him to somebody else and let him run amok? No way. The guy can play. Gibbons.
Interesting one. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Anyone you would delist, Jason? Who would you delist?
Oh,
now we've already got rid of Murphy. Murphy's retired. Casbolt's been delisted, and the other one's retired. Eddie Betts.
I would have to let Lockie O'Brien go because I don't think he really adds any value because we have outside runners.
So you'd try and get a trade for him?
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise you'd delist him, would you?
Well, I'd try to get a trade for him because, I mean...
Yeah, but would you delist him if no one wanted him?
Yeah, of course.
You would delist him, right?
Yeah, and I'd rather keep Gibbons than him. Okay. Who else? I would probably... Cunningham has really... He's a great player. He's dynamic and whatever else, but he hasn't produced anything. He's soft tissue injuries. He's whatever else. I would put him up for trade. If he doesn't, I'd delist him as well.
Wow,
because
big one.
If you're gonna bring in Chera, why do you need Cunningham? Cunningham's a midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
Chera's a midfielder.
What about Matthew Kennedy, the player that came in? He was only a rookie player last year. Came in halfway through the season and was one of our best midfielders. Would you give him another contract?
Absolutely. But the problem with Matthew Kennedy is he plays so much like Patrick Cripps.
Mm-hmm.
We've just given a 6-year contract to Paddy Cripps of whatever. Kennedy has got no speed like Paddy Cripps. He's an inside midfielder. He's a bull. He gets the ball. He distributes. and he's class.
Mhm.
Can he run both ways? No. I mean, he tries to run both ways, but he doesn't. So,
Hey, Jason.
Yeah,
sorry,
mate.
mate. Ross is having a go at you. You don't want Chera, but you want Gibbons. Seriously, this is why we are mediocre. I don't think
Let
Jason
him have a
ever
shot.
said you never said you don't want him. You just said there's better. But do you know something? I'm going to agree here for one thing. I don't know if Chera's the answer, but I hope he comes.
You've
And I
also
hope
got to
he's
look at
good
what they
job.
We all
cost you
hope
as
he
well.
comes.
Yeah,
You've also got to look at the
you've
cost.
also got to look at depth in your playing field. You can't just have one player that's going to be the most outstanding player in that position, because if that player gets injured, you've got to have somebody that takes their place. That was one of the great things with Richmond and Hawthorn is depth in their playing field. I mean, we can't say we're going to sub out this player. Like people are saying we should trade Paddy Dow. I disagree completely. I think he needs to have the right coach and the right people. So yeah. So
Debbie,
we need to depth.
Yes. We agree. Good for you.
Oh, well,
Hey,
no,
Jason,
Deb doesn't want him.
what
She
about-
wants to trade him.
Jason, I'll throw a few more names at you. What about Zach
Yeah, go,
Fisher?
mate.
What about Zach Fisher? Would you keep him
no.
or would you try and trade him?
We keep Zach.
You want to keep him?
Yeah.
What about you, Joe? You got the thumbs down there. You don't
I
like
think
him?
he's too inconsistent.
Midfield, man. Put him in the midfield. Stop playing him in the forward line. Put him in the midfield.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I just think he's inconsistent.
What about Jake? What about Jack Nunes, Jason? I know what Joe thinks of him.
I think he should be delisted or traded.
He
Vince.
He kicked one great goal, and that was it.
Okay, Vinci. There are artists and there are tradesmen, and you always need a tradesman to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with Debbie in her last comment. She said we need people for depth. Jack Nunes, tradesman, gets the job done when he needs, provided he's given the job. I don't think we trade him. Is he the answer? There's no way. But I think Jack Nunes needs to stay because we need tradesmen.
It's interesting. You've advocated.
Sorry, I want to ask you three questions. Zach Williams.
Me, Zach Williams. Bye-bye.
What would you guys do with Zach Williams?
Well, you can't get rid of him because he's on a big contract, and I don't think any other club would take him. So, unfortunately, we're stuck with him. Jack, Martin Williams and what's his other? McGovern. We're stuck with him.
Sard.
Well, Sard I like
Sard was serviceable.
I think Sard is needed.
Agreed.
We need the maturity down in his
his
running ability. I think Sard is probably out of the three of them the one that's impressed me the most. The other three have got to step it up a bit.
Agreed.
But I just think we're stuck with Jack Williams, Jack Martin, Zach Williams, and Mitch McGovern for a few years. So I think they'll stay, but I think Michael Voss and whoever the assistants might pull them aside and go, "Hey guys, you got to impress us, because if not,
you're gone."
I've got one more. I've got one more I want to ask you, and then I'll leave it at that. And I'm asking Jason because he's not here next week.
We can get Jason on next week.
Will Setterfield, Jace, what are you going to do with him? Are you going to trade him, keep him, or delist him?
I'm going to trade or delist.
What about you, Debbie?
I'd keep him.
Okay.
Just for your
Remember, guys, we talk about trade, but someone's got to want them. So we can say, trade him and trade them. But
well, when I say trade, attempt to trade. Otherwise,
I'll tell you the guy,
then you've got a decision to make. Do you give him a new contract or do you delist them?
Well, I wouldn't offer him a contract. I might rookie list Setterfield. I'll tell you the guy who I would put on a rookie contract or delist is I've just lost his name. What's that red-headed guy's name?
Cottrell. He's already a rookie.
Well, how he got a go? He's got no skill. I think he tries to be Mitch Robinson, but no.
He's a poor man's Mitch Robinson. Well, you know what? I think. Well, my summary of our list is that we have one of the best spines going around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Jones at fullback, Wiedering centre half back, Walsh in the middle, Charlie Curnow now at centre-half forward, and Harry Mackay at full forward. We've got a great spine and certainly something that we can build around, but we have got nothing, very, very little around that spine. The only other player you'd say is Patrick Cripps in the middle with Walsh. I doubt anyone else outside of Walsh, Wiedering, Mackay, Cripps and Charlie Curnow would get a game with either Melbourne or the Western Bulldogs from last night. Can you name me one other player that you honestly think would have gotten into the Melbourne side or the Western Bulldogs side outside those five?
Lockie Plowman.
Oh, come on, please. Yes, Jace?
Vinci. Okay. Remember, the Bulldogs got beaten by 74 points. So, okay. There's plenty of room for improvement in their game too, right?
Yeah, but look at what they've done for the year. They played damn good football, and they finished, they were pretty much top two with Melbourne for most of the year, and ended up making it into the grand final. How many other players? Seriously, a serious question. Serious question.
I was topping up for a fight.
Outside of Voss,
Debbie wasn't biting.
Mackay, Cripps and Charlie Curnow. Who else would be included in the 23 players at either Melbourne or the Western Bulldogs? I don't think anyone else would.
Hey, Vince,
I think
what have the Romans ever done for us?
What's that, Joe?
What have the Romans ever done for us?
Yeah, all right. What was that, Debbie?
I agree with Gina. Gina said I think she reckons Sard would have snuck in. I think Sard would have snuck in.
He might have snuck in.
He would have snuck in. But otherwise, I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Do you know what the beauty of this is? I'm reading all these comments. I don't know if you guys are reading them.
Yeah, I am.
Everyone's got opinions.
Of course.
You want to keep Setterfield. I want to delisting him. What do you mean keep Newnes?
Well, none of us. Thank God, none of us are in charge of list management at Carlton.
But something, Vince. Like
yes.
Something with regarding a team. You've got to understand. This is my view, and this is my view. Is that you've got to understand an average player under an average coach will only be an average player. But you can get an average player on a great coach, and can mold them and build them and shape them, and you can get an amazing player. If you listen to what Luke Hodges said, and he said, half of the team from Hawthorn, half of the team were average players, but under a great coach, they all blossomed. And
also the system that they all believed in and bought into. You need that, what Jason was talking about earlier, you need that buy-in from everyone. And what was evident at Melbourne this year was the buy-in from everybody, not only just that played, but the whole of the coaching staff, all of the staff at the club, and it all seeps. I keep saying it seeps from the board level down.
Yeah.
Jason,
and good and a fantastic result for our first. What is it? Melbourne Football Club's first ever woman president, Kate Rocky. Is that right?
Power.
Debbie's going to go up against Luke Sayers at the next AGM.
Debbie's going to do the double cobra. Jason, cobra. You're in pain there. What? You're shaking your head.
I just it's one of those things where people that, and I'm just actually guessing that people haven't actually competed in high pressure sport, professional sport, that can just say, an average player can be it's going to be shit because he's got an average coach. That's not the case. It's not the case. If you haven't been in that environment, you don't need to make comment. You just, we all make comment, which is wrong. Because if you're not that person, if you're not that coach, if you're not that player, you don't actually understand what is happening in that moment. It's about moments. Moments matter. We all say, we can do this, and that player's shit, and this player's shit, and good coach can. And Debbie, you said, the guy, he said this, and this. It doesn't matter what he said because that's him. Other players are different. We are all different. I've coached in this high-pressure environment. I have played in this high-pressure environment. It's different. If you haven't, don't make comment. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Ever done for us?
The aqueducts.
Well, we're all entitled to an opinion, so that's okay. That's fine.
Look, I think we've probably done this one to death. I think we can see that there's a lot of work to be done in building the team. You know, we've all got opinions as to who should come, who should leave, who should be traded, but I think we can see that we've got a spine and not much else at the moment around that spine, and we need to really get to work on putting the flankers and the wingers and the back pockets and the forward pockets together, because you know that's what's needed, not just the spine. We need to build around it and put some meat around the bone, so to speak.
Okay, guys. So I think we've been going for an hour and a half. I think that's about enough for tonight. So
Yep.
we'll carry on next week at the same time. So guys, don't forget, subscribe to In the Blue Corner. We've got the Facebook page and the group. Also got the YouTube channel. So share and like. We got
And subscribe.
Deb, subscribe. We've got Deb who keeps putting out her blogs, and she'll put them on the in the Blue Corner page. So read them. They're very informative.
That's compulsive reading.
Compulsive.
Yes,
Okay.
compulsive reading, compelling reading.
Compelling.
If you don't read Debbie's blog, there's something wrong with you.
Got Jace up there up in Singapore. He's going to be doing something soon on some coaching and stuff like that. So when that comes to fruition, we'll put it on the channel.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Jace, over there in Singapore. Much appreciated, mate.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thanks for that. We've got the boys, even though he didn't come on, we had Rash earlier. He does a show on a Tuesday on Lionheart. It's about mental coach. I think they call it HIT.
Yeah, anyone who hasn't gone to Rash's Facebook page, do yourself a favour and look up Lionheart on Facebook. And there's some fantastic shows. So some of it goes into a lot of in-depth stuff to do with the mind and how it works.
Yeah.
But, and that's probably what a lot of our players need too, a bit of work on their mental fitness, not just their physical fitness.
Oh, I need both.
They should employ Rash at the Carlton Football Club tomorrow.
Yeah. So look, on behalf of In the Blue Corner, I'd like to thank Jason, our special guest. Thanks, Jason, for coming on. Deb, who's going to be our regular, and Vince, as always. So I'll give you. And
by the way, Joe, before we say goodbye, I just want to personally wish Peter Bazzasto all the best for tomorrow with his cancer treatment. And also, I just want to pay tribute to who I regard as the most incredible president that the Carlton Football Club ever had. Love him or hate him, I know he polarised a lot of people, but you cannot deny the contribution that John Elliott made to Carlton over 20 years as our president. He really had a fantastic winning culture at the club, and we enjoyed 2 premierships under his reign. So may he rest in peace. He'll never be forgotten.
Yep.
And just a quote, Jack, pig's ass.
You know he never said that. You know he
No.
never said that.
There was those puppets. Wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. I found that out. So, Deb, last comments, thoughts from you? Anything?
No, nothing. I'm waiting to see what the draft will happen. That's going to be really interesting. See what Voss does with the list.
Okay. And Jace, any last comments?
I agree with what Vince has said with John Nichols and the
Elliott.
buzz.
Yeah. John Elliott. Let's not kill off John Nichols as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. John Elliott and the buzz, and I respect all of the people that are stuck overseas that cannot get home, that need to get home. There's 38,000 Australians registered to get back home that cannot get in. It's shut till 2022. So you guys just keep safe and just do what you need to do.
And on that note, I'm one of those people. But to be honest, I think I'm going to cross my name off because I don't really want to go back to Melbourne having a look at how it's being run and speaking to Mr. Lochisano off air. So that's a show Joe. For another day. That's a show So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Again, thanks to Deb, Jason, and Vince. And don't forget, next Sunday night, 8 p.m., hopefully by then we'll have assistant coaches in place, I think. Who knows? But maybe we'll have 1 or 2 or maybe all 3. And maybe Vince may be able to give us a little bit more of an update as to what's happening with our board and democratic elections, not necessarily a board spill. So on behalf of me here in Bangkok, on behalf of Jason in Singapore, Vince and Debbie in Melbourne, good night.
Good night.
Go
Go
Blues.
Blues.
Rock and roll.
Go Blues.